Miatas are amazing in the way that gay men are amazing. And Subarus are
rugged, reliable, and safe.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash 20 for 20 Gaines.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are you reviewing tonight?
Gene, tonight, the month of Mark from Minneapolis continues. And again, we are blessed with Hanukkah Harry and Christmas time cheer and gift as Ash is back with us again. So I'm excited. And we were all excited when Mark wrote in for his month and he said, for my second request, I would love you to go back to 1999 and review the crime comedy Go.
And Mark wrote in and said, hey, Shat Crew, I commissioned Go for one sole reason. I thought Gene might enjoy the opportunity to reminisce about the late 90s club scene and his days as a drug mule on the Chicago Transit Authority. Go well documents Shat's central mission. Do movies from our childhood and young adulthood stand up today? I first saw Go in the theaters just as I was beginning college, and at this time I recognized it as a Tarantino clone, but wasn't every 90s movie post-Pulp Fiction a 90s clone? Yet the movie still had a certain charm, propulsing energy, fast-paced fun, and just plain cool. Watching today, though, the acting is stiffer than I remember. The Wild Night in Vegas scenes feel very stale, and the movie has its moments of 90s gay panic. Yet there is still some stuff to like. Timothy Olyphant and William Fichtner give solid performances, and I can't help but love Sarah Polley. So I'm splitting it down the middle and giving Go 2.5 wipes. Look forward to hearing what the Shat Crew thinks. Warmly, Mark from Minneapolis.
Well, Mark, I'm flattered that you would commission Go for me, and guilty as charged as far as moving drugs around Chicago, being a big fan of the 90s club scene, and, you know, a little drug use myself. I'm surprised at how many commissions we've gotten lately where people say openly, I think this is a 2.5 wipe movie, but I really want to hear you cover it. And we're not talking about those like 4 wipers where they're expecting us to just shat all over it, you know, something like Ice Pirates, but they're also not considering this like top-notch cinema. They're like, this is a middling movie. What do you think? So thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I think it's important. It's movies that everyone kind of likes. They can be down the middle. They don't have to be the best of films, but it's the ones you have fun and memories. And I think this fits into that category.
Go is a 1999 crime comedy with intertwining plots involving 3 sets of characters. The film stars William Fichtner, Katie Holmes, Jay Moore, Sarah Polley, and Scott Wolf. Taye Diggs, Breckin Meyer, Timothy Olyphant, Jane Krakowski, J.E. Freeman, and Melissa Carthy also appear in the film, with it being McCarthy's film debut. Although it was critically acclaimed, Go underperformed at the box office and has since become a cult classic. So Big D, Ash, we always ask where you were the first time you saw a movie or when that movie came out. Big D, we'll start with you. What are your memories of Go?
So we've talked before, like Hollywood gets into a trend. They'll have like a cowboy movie that's a hit, and then they do cowboy movies everywhere. A disaster movie or an asteroid movie. They come in like 2s and 3s, and I did not remember Go because it was during that time when these interweaving storylines, yes, you mentioned Tarantino, but they were the rave and they were like winning awards. You know, 99 to like 2005, you had Love Actually, Crash, Closer, Babbled. all of these were winning awards. And I would have bet money I'd not seen this film. We get to the parking lot rave hit and run. And I was like, yes, I do remember this. So I felt kind of like Manny waking up in the garbage and remembering, yes, I've been here. Something happened. I don't know what. But that was go for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I know I saw this in high school, but I can't really remember exactly when. And I'll be honest, kind of like you, Big D, there's this weird thing that happens in this time period where lots of movies are intertwined. And for some reason, I thought this movie was Can't Hardly Wait. I thought they were the same film, very different films, but they're kind of in the same idea, right? Like beautiful, very 90s people having a wild, crazy night together. And I remember this one being a bit more quote unquote adult than the others, or at least it was marketed as such, but I didn't remember a whole lot. So thank you, Mark. Thanks for taking on this late 90s journey. And what a tone shift from Eternal Sunshine last week. This is a good little palate cleanser from kind of that dark love journey.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. Thank you, Mark, because this one totally slipped under my radar. Unlike Big D and Ash, I never saw it, and I'm not sure why, because it was the right movie at the right time for me, and somehow I just missed it. It has so many things that I would have loved in that time period: raves, ecstasy, strip clubs, a Brit, gay dudes, cool cashiers. This is catnip for a teenage Gene Lyons, and I'm really, really bummed that I didn't see it when it was in theaters, or at least pirate it while I was in college. Let's hit the trailer.
So what are you up to tonight?
We're going to this party tonight, this warehouse thing.
Some sort of rave thing.
Is this gonna be cool?
Yeah, I guess.
Does a British guy still work here?
We went to Vegas for the weekend.
The British guy usually hooks us up.
Let me see what I can do. Give me a number.
I can't believe you're selling allergy medicine.
Oh, we're out of that. We're down to chewable aspirin.
I think I feel something.
It's really smooth, isn't it?
What do you want for Christmas, Claire?
We just kissed a little, okay?
Hello, he's a drug dealer.
He's a good guy.
Oh, he's the good drug dealer.
Listen, I just want to make a deal here. Can we make a deal?
Are you Monty Hall?
Now watch what I do with his wrist.
Heck, down like that, bump.
I watch all these cop shows, and they never do it right. Ever.
Keep it close. There's an extra $10 in it for you. Get in the car.
You stole a car, shot a bouncer, and had sex with 2 women?
So now you're an entrepreneur.
You shouldn't do this, Rana. Just drive.
Well, if you gotta go.
From Doug Liman, the director of Swingers, Taye Diggs, William Fichtner, Katie Holmes, Breckin Meyer, Jay Moore, Timothy Olyphant, Sarah Polley, Scott Wolf.
You know what I like best about Christmas?
Mistletoe?
The surprises.
When there's nothing to do.
So, Zach, would you say you're open to new things?
Accept what you've done.
Is your British ass happy now?
When you've gone too far to stop.
There's no body, there's no crime. We'll put her in the trunk. Stop! What? Stop it! What? It's a Miata!
This spring.
Yo, man, I told you my mother's mother was
Your mother's
black.
fun. This ain't roots. If you were any less black, you would be clear.
Nothing will take you farther.
It's stuck.
Oh. Give me the gun!
Go.
It's all right, I'm okay.
What's up, guys? Drop a like, smash subscribe, and hit notify to get all of our trailers before they drop anywhere else.
Around Christmas, Rana, working overtime to avoid being evicted, is approached by Adam and Zach to buy 20 hits of ecstasy, which they'd hoped to buy from her absent coworker, Simon. Rana approaches Simon's dealer, Todd, for the pills and leaves her friend Claire with Todd as collateral. When Rana meets with Adam and Zach, a stranger named Burke presses her for the ecstasy. She flushes the drugs down the toilet and leaves, then steals over-the-counter pills to replace them, helped by Manny, who had covertly swallowed 2 of the ecstasy pills, unaware of their strength. So anyone who's listened to this podcast knows that I'm a big, big fan of ecstasy and mushrooms. Those are my drugs of choice outside of alcohol. And as I've gotten older, ecstasy's kind of fallen by the wayside. But I always felt that it's gotten a bad rap along with other hard drugs in film. Like, it's just over the top how bad they make these drugs seem. Normally in a movie, it's going to be dangerous or scary. If you see cocaine on screen, someone's going to have an addiction, right? It's going to be Ray Liotta getting all fucked up on coke all the time. Or heroin is going to kill somebody, right? You see heroin in a movie, somebody's going to overdose. Mushrooms, it always ends in terrifyingly bad trips. And I want to applaud Go, although there is some danger associated with the MDMA, it's not the drug itself that's a problem. Manny has a bit of a freak out, yes, but they did also show the fun side of ecstasy, let you know why you would want to do this. Because ecstasy never made me horny. In movies, you always see ecstasy and then people want to fuck. No. It makes me want to do the Macarena. It makes me want to dance with middle-aged women in the produce aisle of a grocery store. That's what ecstasy really does.
But I can't believe I'm going to say this. This movie makes drugs seem quaint. It makes it seem like the good old days where nobody feared. When he said it was pharmaceutical grade, it was pharmaceutical grade. Now kids must worry how much fentanyl's in there. Am I going to die from this? What factory or what kitchen was this made in? Back in the day, you could trust that's what it was. And today I have hangups with it. And I think it's out of fear of what it is. Back then it was so innocent.
I'll take it a step further. I used to get excited when the ecstasy we got our hands on was a little speedy. I was like, oh, there's a little spice to this one.
I don't know. I mean, the fentanyl panic is a bit much. Like every billboard, I don't know if it's a thing like a law in Texas that like every third billboard has to be about how fentanyl kills, but that's what it feels like. But I remember around this time period when I would have seen this movie, that's when they used to show us in school that like Maury Povich interview with the girl who had holes in her brain because of how much like X she had done. And so like they have that horrible scan where like big chunks of her brain are out. So I was absolutely terrified of things like X in 1999 because I was convinced it was as bad as fentanyl. So I didn't want to do the Macarena. I wanted to avoid it like altogether.
I mean, it admittedly made me dumber. I know that for a fact. Like I was smarter before I did ecstasy, and some of the damage it did to my brain, it's substantial. It's not just aging. I was noticeably dumber at like 24 than I was at 21.
I know it's going to sound crazy, but I think psychedelics, I think a lot of these drugs, yes, they do damage, but they do change people in a way that opens their mind generally and changes the way they think. Creative people generally aren't the ones who have abstained. Now, it's not a great thing. I'm not saying everybody go out there and do it, but I think definitely when I used to take mushrooms and you talk, your brain goes places it normally wouldn't. And I think there's a reason why we've talked about they use it in therapy.
Yeah, I think there's a line, though. I totally agree with you on the mushrooms. I wish I could go back in time. You asked me before, Big D, if I go back in time and talk to the younger me, what would I say? I forgot. Do mushrooms, not ecstasy. Because ecstasy, the way it opened my mind was like, I should run up a flight of stairs and then throw up off the top of a parking structure. Woo! Then let's go take a shower.
Well, I think that regardless of its stance on drugs, there's something that's very like uniquely like late 90s in this film. And if you had to have me describe this movie in like, exactly 4 words, it would be Tarantino for the kiddies, right? Because I think it is very clear here that we have an homage that's being paid to Quentin Tarantino in the late 90s. He's such like a hot name at this point. And I have to be honest, like I typically do like when directors pay homage to other directors when it's done well. I don't know if either of you have watched the new movie on Netflix, May December, with Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, but it's very much like Todd Haynes does David Lynch, and it's really fascinating. It's really brilliant. And the same is true here. Like the script feels like a tribute to Tarantino. It clips along. There are these clever quips from characters who find themselves in these ridiculously horrible circumstances, but like, make it young adult. I think that's kind of this movie in a nutshell. And I'm not sure that throughout the entire film that approach is always successful, but it was kind of an interesting take and kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I felt like this was like a crossover, though. It's like Quentin Tarantino meets a Kevin Smith with a hybrid strain of like a Doug Liman, right? It's this appeal to nerdier people, much more, I think, than Tarantino ever dared to do. And one of the things it does is it shows these kids. These are cool kids working at a grocery store, and they're in the back room taking a break. And what are they doing? Movie trivia. Shit like this fucked with me as a kid because I thought I could go to school and be these kids, right? And talk to the people like, hey, you guys, can you think of famous dead celebrities whose names start with X? The fact is, people don't like trivia in general. And I'm not talking about going to the bar. I'm talking about like quizzing your friends on absolute nonsense. And if this really charmed people, like in real life, I'd be fucking Bradley Cooper. Instead, I spent high school annoying everyone with useless knowledge, and I continue to do that to this day. Go on a road trip with me, hang out at a restaurant with me. You're going to get this. Camping, fuck, forget about it.
Oh my God, I feel this so deeply because I think I sought out this experience, or more like particularly like I sought out that group of people to have these experiences with, not just when I was a teenager, like all through my 20s and 30s, like as well. And sadly, this is really sad, but the closest I ever came were like you're talking about, like those super boring trivia nights at lame bars with bad food, with the type of people I didn't particularly want to hang out with, and shat on trivia. That may be the closest I ever came to feeling what these movies promise when we got to play trivia with each other during the pandemic. And I'll be honest with you guys, the only thing I miss about 2020, the only thing I miss about the pandemic was Shappy Hour and like my one moment of trivia glory that like all these years of cultivating useless knowledge, it finally paid off.
You see, but I think it's an age gap thing. Because in the 80s, when you didn't have any internet and families had almanacs, having knowledge, these random knowledge and facts was something to be admired. Trivial Pursuit night with the family, or family sitting around and watching Jeopardy. I remember, Ashley, we were talking about Smashing Pumpkins. I remember sitting down with a pen and paper and trying to decipher the lyrics to some of the Pumpkin songs because they didn't have the liner notes on the album. There was something back then that you had to do. Ironically, I love trivia, and yet I shit the bed and shat on Jeopardy. It was the worst.
Now, I think that was just a different bar being set, Big D, because I think both of us are fairly good at trivia. Ash is just on another fucking level, so it's not really fair. Like, compare us against the everyman. We're going to be fine. Ash is encyclopedic.
Plus the game structure, once she got one question, then she owned the topic and she just continued to go. Like, she could just daisy chain all of hers.
Jeopardy? Like you're literally defining the rules of Jeopardy.
No, I don't think he was saying it was unfair. What he's saying is a game like Jeopardy is really skewed toward you. As our beer pong and flippy cup.
Yes, we need something where we could try to jump in and cut into your string of hundreds of straight answers because your memory is incredible.
Well, I think, again, it's because of fucking shit like this and years that I spent cultivating this useless knowledge, and it makes me highly annoying. People don't like me because I was good at shat on trivia, like, because that's just who I am. And you mentioned Trivial Pursuit. Maybe that's where it comes from, too, because, my God, like, the epic Trivial Pursuit nights we had as a kid with those, stupid brown categories were always the worst.
I think the lesson here for all of us, though, is that instead of doing trivia, instead of doing a podcast or any of this shit, if we would have learned to play a guitar or piano, everyone would like us. Or Big D for you, dance.
Yeah, that'll make you the hit of every party. You're worried about going there and spouting out your facts. You think taking your guitar and sitting on the stairs, that's going to make you popular?
Get you laid.
Yeah, possibly. It depends on how good you are. But one of the things when we say we're going to go back and look at these movies, your perspective will change depending on where you are in your life. I now realize I've hit a point in my life where I'm more reserved, I'm more controlled. I now associate more with the adults in the film. I watched this movie thinking and fearing for Emma. All the situations that Rona's in, I'm like, shit, Emma is going to face these dilemmas. And I do admit, it was fun. I loved being reckless. I loved doing drugs and not caring and being wild. But getting older, people always say it sucks. Gene, you've talked about slowing down or getting your reading glasses. It sucks, but there is a good thing to learning how the system works. Rona and all these kids face difficulties that as an adult, I'm like, shit, I would treat that completely different. We understand finance, investment. We understand how the process of life works. And, once you have that and you know how the law works, and how to deal with the police, these idiots are stumbling around, putting themselves into all kinds of dangerous situations. And Rona, when she gets into that sting operation, she sniffs it out, and I'm glad that she realizes a way to get it. But the whole time, I'm like, just walk out the door. Just look at them. Walk out the door. Don't flush the drugs. As an adult, I can go to Vegas and not blow money because I'm sensible. If you want to do drugs, Gene, if you want to microdose, you can do it and limit the risk. When you're a kid, it's so dangerous. And as an adult, I just felt like I was like, okay, it's not as bad being an adult. It was fun, but poor Emma.
I'm going to speak for the youth of America here, though, Big D. There's a flip side to that because you just said, I can go to Vegas and not blow all my money. Well, then why the fuck are you going to Vegas? You could just gamble sensibly, like, online, I guess, or whatever. Shrooming, having a fucking threesome in Vegas, going to a strip club. Like, this is dumb shit we do when we're younger. And honestly, I think about it sometimes as an adult and I go, I'm too sensible. I need to put myself in worse situations. Big D, I bought a fucking airbag vest for motorcycle riding. It's high vis. That's me now. It's fucking sad. I used to ride a moped with no brakes in a denim jacket and shorts. But now suddenly I'm fucking, I gotta protect myself because I got so much invested in life.
Now I want to go to Vegas to watch U2 at the Globe. Things have changed. The shows are wonderful, Gene. The shows are just wonderful.
Yeah, it's the Sphere. Thank you. I mean, get it right,
I'm just imagining you two like on the foot of the Thames performing like Othello, and it was amazing. Fucking Bono. Rana gives 20 of the fake pills to Todd. She, Claire, and Manny then go to a rave where Rana sells the rest of the fake pills as ecstasy. Todd realizes the pills are fake and pursues Rana to the rave. Rana flees, hiding the now incapacitated Manny in an alley and promising to return with her car. Todd confronts Rana with a gun in the parking lot, but she is hit by a car that speeds away, leaving her motionless in a ditch.
I have to be honest that I was really surprised when I heard that the main issue of this whole movie is going to all boil down to exactly $100. Like, I get that Rana's having money issues, but $100, you've got friends you can pull from, like shit that you can sell. Like, am I just like completely used to how expensive our lives now have become that she goes through all of this hell for what is really objectively not that much money?
Yeah, I think part of that, Ash, is inflation, and part of it is purchasing power. I've been thinking about this a lot myself because I used to think that $100 was like an oh shit amount, and now it's like $1,000 is more of like a I'm paying attention amount. And really, it's absolutely criminal. Talking about that youth versus being old thing, it's absolutely criminal that we enjoy most of our wealth in life when we're too boring or tied down to maximize this potential. When I was 21, I had no money. I would show up at clubs at 9 p.m. because I knew that they had nickel drinks and no cover. And I would get fucked up. And that's the only way I could afford a buzz. I couldn't even afford to buy alcohol from the store. I was that poor. Now I can afford top shelf liquor. I'm like, oh, how aged is this bourbon? What kind of scotch is that? But I also am in bed by 10 p.m. So like, what the fuck is the point? And the hardest thing to deal with is the fact that I don't know if you guys are like this, but I grew up without money. So I'm forever poor in my brain. So now I have purchasing power, but I have no idea what you would actually do with that kind of money.
See, but I think we all have the friend in our life who lacks all impulse control.
Yeah, we do.
The one, and he shall remain nameless. But even like when you're younger, it's okay to like, I remember going into New York City to watch the Yankees and spending all of our money on the tickets and having no money back for the train. So we would get kicked off the train when they found us hiding in the bathroom. We got kicked off at 125th Street, 2 a.m, had to call Vinnie Wallace's father to come get us. Some people grow out of it, some don't. You still have those adult friends who make those impulsive decisions, who never get to the adulting, where they can just say, I'll sacrifice today's little pleasure for something down the road.
And 3 years later, they made a movie called The Warriors.
Yeah. Yeah. So you talk here, we get to meet Todd now. I've lived with drug dealers, never done any myself. I was too scared. But I would like to believe I'd be like Todd. Todd is a good dude. I think he walks that fine line. We normally get tropey drug dealers. We get something like True Romance, where you get the drug dealers, this over-the-top supervillain. Him right here, Todd. He's savvy, he's funny, he's confident and sexy, shirtless. He's pragmatic. He checks for a wire. He knows and respects the drug dealer hierarchy. He knows the law. 20 pills is the max. So why does he sell 20 pills? Tell everybody, hey, 19 pills is the max that I will sell you. Come back tomorrow. And his interaction with Claire, it wasn't quite Tarantino, like you said, Ash, but "Are you a virgin, Claire?" He caught me. I did not think that they would have the courage to openly parrot or quote Breakfast Club, and then that Claire picks up on it. Like, I'm okay. This movie's a little wittier. It's more self-aware. It gave me a smile. And I was a little, though, disappointed when he makes two crucial mistakes. He breaks that first no favors rule, shows you got a little something for Claire, and then he takes the return of the merchandise without checking. I don't know how a drug dealer would take back aspirin and not question it, but Timothy Olyphant, he shows you why he became a superstar.
I don't know. I'm going to call BS on this whole idea that he's like a confident, sexy, pragmatic drug dealer, because I mean, it's pretty heavy-handed the way they portray him. He's got the crazy bleached hair. He, like you said, he's shirtless. It opens up with him making out with the girl from behind. He's got all these boxes behind him. He's wearing a Santa hat. Like, I mean, he's a caricature from like this time period exactly. You've got True Romance at a different point in the decade, but they're just as extreme.
Speaking to the not checking the drugs thing, I was surprised that he had to like compare it to aspirin because anybody who sells ecstasy knows exactly what's stamped on their pills. And it's always something goofy and they're in a shape. It's like a Mitsubishi symbol or some shit like that. Maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe they don't do that anymore, but this movie is from back then. I remember, I can tell you actually every time I did ecstasy, exactly what was stamped on the pill. So I would imagine that the dealer doesn't have to go and actually pull out some aspirin and compare the two.
Well, and I mean, they don't have score marks. Like the pills she gives them back, like literally have like score marks on them, like cut in half, where they can like break the pill. Like it's pretty obvious what they are.
But speaking of Timothy Olyphant, Big D, totally agree. It was a stroke of genius to cast him. He's just so good. He looks so good. He's so enjoyable on screen. He's crass and kind of sleazy, but also sexy and kind of endearing. Even better, though, William Fichtner. As the cop. They just let him be as weird as he wanted as Burke. He's so creepy, possibly a closeted homosexual, probably on drugs, definitely understands the ick that attaches itself to cops. But the real eye-opener for me was Katie Holmes. I have only seen her in Batman Begins. I've never watched Dawson's Creek, so I've never witnessed her. I just knew her as like Tom Cruise's wife or eventually Tom Cruise's wife. And I gotta say, meh. Like at least I have a Katie Holmes education now and her in something other than a superhero movie, but I wasn't impressed.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to agree to disagree on Katie Holmes. I think that she's like this really strangely beautiful yet awkward actress, which I think in this time period all the way through the early 2000s, that was a really big thing, is like if they're like kind of awkward and weird, like that was a style of acting that they did. And she does this shy thing where like her shoulders are constantly folded in and on herself. And here's my thing. Katie Holmes walked in movies like this so Kristen Stewart could run in films like Twilight and make an entire career out of acting in a way that's so hilarious that I actually find him really endearing. But you're right, though, about this cast. Like, it's a legit, like, who's who of 90s actors and, like, what is truly, like, their prime. And I know that our commissioner talked about Sarah Polley. She is one of my favorites from this time. I love her in the remake of Dawn of the Dead. She's so good in that. Taye Diggs, he looks amazing in that yellow blazer. He looks fantastic. And then my second favorite tiny cute guy from the late 90s, early 2000s is Breckin Meyer, only second to Ethan Embry. And I loved it. It was so fun to see him. Scott Wolf from Party of Five. Like, you've just got so many of them. It's like a bingo card of who mattered in the teen world in the late 90s.
Taye Diggs. So good looking.
Yeah.
Like, he's impossibly good looking.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating.
Yeah, but he didn't fit with those other guys. He was too attractive.
Because he was black?
He was too polished. He was too
black.
He was too refined. No, I didn't think black? I didn't like his Hall of Fame jacket. But
is this like the equivalent of saying like he is really well spoken?
God.
No, I just thought he was a polished adult with some idiot kids, especially the one who said color's a state of mind. That guy I thought was problematic. It wasn't Taye Diggs.
Well, his name is Tay, not Ty.
Yo, why pull your stinky dinky out my ass? Yeah, that guy.
Okay, so we've talked about the cast. We've talked about, the way they've approached drugs. We talked about, Timothy Olyphant and how great he looks. This is relatively a teen film. It's that elevated teen film. It's that R-rated teen film. It feels very much like a precursor to, the kind of dumb things that they do in movies like American Pie. And I'm enjoying it. I think it's fun. It's, it's moving along at a fine pace. I feel like I get what this movie is up until this point. And then there's the car scene. And I'll be honest that I was not expecting how brutal she's hit by this car. And then she's like at the bottom of this ditch and she's like moaning in pain and covered in blood. And it just all of a sudden was like, oh, like it got really dark there for a second. And please know, I'm not criticizing the movie for this. I actually don't think it's a bad thing. I thought it was pretty great. I was just legit shocked. And that rarely happens in a lot of the movies that we commission, much less one that's aimed at a younger audience. And I have to be honest that I started to get why this is considered to be such a good film, like right at this point when they flip the whole thing on its head.
Yeah, this is so elevated over what you'd expect to see in the 80s. Because in an 80s comedy, they're going to get hit by the car, and then in slow motion, whoa, and then the camera's underneath them. You see the sky, and they go flying by out of frame. That's not what we got here. We got a brutal crash scene. And I'm such a fuck up that instead of being worried about her well-being, all I was thinking was, oh no, Miata. Because when it hit Rana, they banged up this beautiful yellow NA Miata. Like that is a thing to be cherished. People can be replaced. NA Miatas cannot. And it's so cute, even when it's leaving people to die.
Oh my God.
You see, and I couldn't remember who was driving it. And then I started to think, okay, who was homosexual? Who is homosexual in the cast? Because that's who's driving the yellow Miata. I didn't put two and two together. That would have unraveled the entire story. Zach and Adam's sexuality would have come out. But Ash, I agree. You can't undersell this. It was like a romp, a fun rave. There's dance music. People are having fun. And then you get a scene from Goodfellas or Casino where she's in the ditch. The headlights, the rain is coming down. And I'm like, fuck, she's dead. Ron is dead. And it got really dark and frightening. And it was just such a weird tone change.
Before anybody calls us out for being homophobic, by the way, I want to point out two things. They're just truths in life, okay? Miatas are favored by gay men. They just are. I was in a Miata club. There's a lot of gay men.
Yes.
And then also Subarus, that's a lesbian car. It just fucking is. As is the Nissan Xterra. This is not a judgment.
No.
This is a generalization, true, but it's just a fucking fact that like Miatas are amazing in the way that gay men are amazing. And Subarus are
rugged, reliable, and safe.
You know what? My lesbian friends are rugged and reliable, but also, I don't know if you know this, Big D, lesbians drive very fast. I went on a trip to Mexico in a caravan, not a Dodge Caravan, but like a caravan of vehicles. And I was driving my car and then, not the Miata, this is when I had a RAV4. And then there was a pickup truck and two Subarus, and they just fucking blasted in Mexico, like across the international line. And I'm like, oh, the federales, and they just went for it, man. God bless
those lesbians. They just go for it.
Jesus, oh my God!
I started that out by explaining how we're not homophobic, and I think the end result was,
oh, I bet their cars
came all the way back around, my friend.
We love you guys. The story restarts from the perspective of Simon, who is on a trip to Las Vegas with Marcus, Tiny, and Sing. Simon crashes a wedding and has sex with two of the bridesmaids before they accidentally set their hotel room on fire. Simon and Marcus then steal a Ferrari and go to a strip club where Simon enrages the bouncer, Victor Jr., by groping one of the strippers. Simon shoots Victor Jr. in the arm and flees to the hotel, rousing Tiny and Sing. The four barely escape the bouncer and his father, Victor Sr., but Victor Sr. traces Todd's address from his credit card, which Simon had borrowed. So there's a scene in the movie where there's these two bridesmaids. Simon has just picked them up from a wedding in the lobby. They're taking an elevator, presumably up to their room, and he's trying to flirt with them. And the whole time they're just making fun of his accent. And on behalf of Simon, as a social justice warrior, I was getting pissed at them. I was like, why are you making fun of this guy? He's got an accent. So fucking what? You guys are being ignorant dicks. And then one of them, in the accent, asks Simon, do you want to be getting high with us? And that changed everything. I feel like earnestly offering someone a hit or a drink, that immediately erases any low-level bigotry, right? Low-level bigotry, like the accent thing. Not something as big as the N-word, but if someone was making fun of my accent or appearance and then was like, hey, you want some bourbon? Like, we're good. Like, you're making friends with me.
See, but I think that was part of their way of ice breaking. I think the accent, it's attractive. It was almost negging. It was something that they could use to break the ice because they were a little shy until they got high. I took it as the doors open. Hey, they're flirting.
But I think you're a little more attuned to flirtation than I am, but he's not Irish.
No.
Well, I think they're ignorant. They're at Patty and Paul's wedding. I don't know that they were like attuned to what geographic location he was from, but they took it upon themselves to flirt and it worked out well. And I just like the fact that it didn't go to some of the threesome tropes. Like he would come really quick or he'd embarrass himself. Instead, he's enjoying it. The curtains are on fire, and he thinks this is all part of his experience, and he's feeling it. It's a wild scene.
I just like the one of them looked like Stoya. It was like a weird...
The one with the stuff up her nose with the flaming nostrils? Or was it the other one?
Yeah. Stoya.
Well, I think that, by this point in the movie, the soundtrack, it really starts to shine. And I have friends that I was talking to about this when I was prepping that they don't remember the movie, but they had the soundtrack. And I didn't realize a lot of like how this is like time capsule of this time period. You've got like Eagle Eye Cherry. You've got a great No Doubt song. You've got Fatboy Slim, like all very late 90s, what became mainstream music that really fits the tone of this film, I think, well. And from the casino to the car chases, it works in a way that makes the movie feel very much of its time, but strangely in 2024 still doesn't feel dated because it's not like Clueless where like all of a sudden it's like a true like ska band, or you go into like a big band scene with like what was the name of that fucking band? The
Brian Setzer Orchestra?
No, the Big Bad Voodoo Daddies.
Cherry Poppin' Daddies?
I don't think it's not Cherry Poppin'
Squirrel Nut Zippers? No, these are all legit bands from that time.
No, the big bad Voodoo Daddies. It's not like Clueless where like all
Cherry
of a sudden
Poppin'.
There's no band that's called Cherry Poppin'.
The Cherry Poppin' Daddies.
What the fuck are you talking about?
They got a song called Zoot Suit Riot. I'm not kidding. It goes Zoot
That's
Suit Riot.
Big Bad Voodoo
Bring back
Daddies.
a bottle of beer.
Big Bad Voodoo Daddy did You and Me and the Bottle Makes Three Tonight.
I don't know if I even know that song.
I don't know that one.
It's about a threesome. It's relevant.
Well, there you go. The whole point is that you don't have that, right? Like you don't have that like crazy, thing that like we would never listen to that kind of music today, potentially. But here it all kind of makes sense, and it felt me feel like really nostalgic when No Doubt kicks up at the end of this movie. I love that No Doubt song. And that is a No Doubt song I always forget is a No Doubt song because everybody listens to like their worst shit like spider webs. It was great to hear that and remember that there was some decent music from this time.
I kind of like spiderwebs, but I agree with you. At the end of this movie, when the credits started to play, I was singing along.
Me too.
And I was embarrassed a little bit, but it's really weird how songs I didn't really care for in like 99 are suddenly dear to me in 2023. And I think that's definitely a mark of being old. So along with Big D's financial responsibility and taking it easy on the drugs, you find that comfort out of sheer familiarity. Like I would rather hear a song I didn't like in 99 than a new song from now. That's definitely some old man shit.
Yeah.
But I also feel like there's been a shift. Movies back then, the soundtracks were put together. It felt like with an eye for the album and soundtrack sales. What can we get onto the soundtrack so we can sell it to make money? Today, that really doesn't happen. We got the new Top Gun came out and they went and got Lady Gaga to do the main theme song. But other than that, with Spotify, you can buy single songs, people don't do it. And they did some weird mashups, like the Magic Carpet Ride, which is like a funky dance version of it that felt like Fatboy Slim did it. Mm-hmm. It was just a weird hybrid, almost like, what was that? The one where they were in the RV? Like Judgment Night, where Judgment Night did rap music with popular songs. I felt like this did some weird mashups.
Funky dance remix, rap songs.
No, it's like funk and like techno.
I feel like this is the
weird.
podcast that, like, you've sounded the oldest on, like, ever. You've talked about investments, about how you can gamble responsibly, and how those crazy kids and their funky dance remix.
I've always been worried about the longevity of this podcast, but I realize that it just gets funnier as we get older.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You know, this is only our second episode ever where we've all been in our 40s, and like it's starting to show, guys. It's starting to show.
Well, happy belated. After the threesome, we get this strip club scene, and I've never had a threesome. Big D, we know that you had one with the guy that landed Sully. But I have been to a strip club, so I feel pretty confident in saying that the last place I'd want to go after having tantric sex that ended in a hotel fire is the Champagne Room. First of all, I'm like a Highlighter guy. Highlighter is an incredible club in Phoenix. If either of you ever want to go and don't bring your children, we can go to the Highlighter. But most strip clubs, you go to the Champagne Room, it's expensive. Second, you just had sex with two women. It's not going to be nearly as good. If I'm in Vegas and I just had sex with two women and set a hotel on fire and stole a Ferrari, I'm going to one of two places, Secret Pizza or Tacos El Gordo. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, this is where like my financial stability, I think, comes in. It's like ridiculous to spend that kind of cash after getting it for free, and not just once, but like, you know, twice. And I don't know about y'all. And this is like absolutely no insult to individuals who do strip or people who like to frequent strip clubs. Growing up in New Orleans, I've been to a number of them, and all kinds, nice ones down to not so nice ones, but they just make me feel physically dirty. Like everything in that place feels like it's sticky. And if I just finish a threesome, I'm with you. Food, shower, sleep, going out at all, much less to a strip club, sounds absolutely horrible.
Ash, I like you talking more about fiscal responsibility. This might be a good time, Gene. Dave Ramsey, new sponsor for the podcast. I think we're going to have some mid-roll where he's going to talk to us about making the right decisions. But talking now, Gene, to try to maybe I can explain my personal experience with Pat. When we had our threesome right after, we chose to go out to a bar. And our rationale was we had just done something so wild, we would go to the bar indifferent, and that would make us more attractive. And we also tried to see, let's roll the dice. If we can land this plane twice, you know, not to paraphrase what Pat did later, then it would be a big thing. That was our thinking. You know, but we didn't go pay for it, you know, and the big question here, though, is maybe I missed this in the film. At what point did Simon get Todd's card? Was it only for the purpose of renting the room? Because him using it here, that's the thing. He doesn't have any reservation. He's going to pay for it with Todd.
I think that this was an era when having your own credit card was a bit more rare, especially if you're Simon who works at the grocery store. So I think he just had it just to get the discount. But then when faced with this scenario where he really wanted to go to the Champagne Room because he's a fucking idiot and a massive liability, he decided to pull out Todd's card, which causes me to add scrutiny to this choice because you're pulling out the card of a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Like that's maybe not the guy you want to fuck.
I don't know. I mean, like, you guys talked ad nauseum about how they're impulsive, right? Like nothing is more impulsive than this. And I did this 2 times in my 20s where like I used my mom's card to do something ridiculous and spent so much money, and then used a friend's credit card because they gave it. And like you're saying, Gene, like you, like I grew up with no money. So the concept of money was like, I had no idea what that was. And so somebody gave me their card and was like, oh, well, we'll pay with this. Like, we'll pay for this with that. Cause it sounds ridiculous, but like I never had a credit card. I didn't have a credit card until I was in like my mid 20s beyond like a debit card. I had no idea what it meant. And it was like not real. It's like, oh, well, this is a fake thing. Like my children think my credit card is now. They think that credit card just like money just disappears on it. So I buy it. I buy the impulsivity. It's dumb. He is a liability. Maybe I was too in my early 20s, but I don't know. I think it tracks.
Growing up on 80s movies, I thought the credit card was just a thing you took to dinner and then a waiter comes and cuts it up. The story changes perspective to a couple named Adam and Zach, actors coerced into working for Burke, a police detective, to entrap their dealer. When Rana arrives to make the deal, Zach secretly warns her, so she flushes the drugs down the toilet. After the unsuccessful bust, Burke invites Adam and Zach to Christmas dinner, where Burke and his wife pitch a multi-level marketing company.
So I think we've given this movie a lot of credit for a lot of things, and it deserves those things. It's funny. It's got a great script. There's lots of great things about it. But by this point in the movie, when we get through like the second interlude and we're now entering into the third, the way it's over stylized, at least for me, like started to really wear on me, because we get it. Like, this is supposed to be a cool movie. Like, we're supposed to think the characters and the actors are cool, but they telegraph the shit out of every single scene. And it's just these weird things, like the camera angles, like always askew and like looking from underneath. And, you know, the characters are all no nonsense and kind of grown, and they all dress amazing. And the music at some parts is pretty heavy handed. And we already talked about the hot drug dealer with no shirt and a Santa hat. It's just a lot. And I don't think it's just this movie. I think a lot of movies from like 1997 to like 2003, it was a time period where they all wanted to be cool. But unlike Hackers, which is a movie that I actually think is cool, with like really cool things that they're doing with like clothing and things like that, this one feels artificial in a way that that Hackers doesn't. That by this point I was like, okay, like we understand.
I 100% could hear this movie saying, "Hey, did you see how cool that was? Isn't this cool? Normal people are so square, but we're all cool and exciting. Nothing is mundane. Everything is cool."
See, but you guys spent all last week talking about interesting people. They're making potato statues. They're flying their drone out at the beach. Oh, look at the weird fun. They're building birdhouses. Those were interesting things. Yes, the style of the film and the filmmaker was very MTV. Flash cuts, shooting up, like it looked like, and it was shot like a video. But the characters, I don't think, are over stylized. They're like dumb kids.
Yeah, but we're sitting here equating stealing Ferraris, going to raves, setting hotels on fire with making birdhouses and going to the beach in Montauk. Yeah. I don't know if David Cross was supposed to be cool in Eternal Sunshine. I think he was just supposed to be David Cross.
And I think there's a difference between like trying to be cool and like kitschy. Like the stuff in Eternal Sunshine is like this like kitschy thing that's like supposed to be unique and like slightly weird and offbeat. There's nothing offbeat about these people. Like just look at the movie poster and the way like all of their hair is exactly perfect, where they're all wearing strangely something that's shiny that looks like it's made out of vinyl. Like that is like such a late 90s, like, hey, we're all mainstream. All they needed was like a couple of butterfly clips and some blue eyeshadow and a choker necklace, and they're like,
or how about blue hair? Blue hair would have done it. Or tangerine hair.
Just one piece of blue hair in the 90s, though. You can't have a whole head of blue hair.
What we're discussing here is the age-old divide between No Doubt and Bon Iver.
There's going to be like 3 listeners who are going to understand that reference that you just made. Just 3.
If you know that reference, write in. You might win a prize.
Give us a 5-star review, because that's freaking funny.
Yeah, you get a sticker.
Do you love Warble Rock? Listen to Shat the Movies.
More stickers here. But I have another question. We get here to the part, there's obviously Adam and Zach's storyline, and Burke has something over them. Because it was much like in Role Models, where they're trying to get the signatures from their parole officer. He's trying to get them to sign off. Burke has to sign some paperwork. Did I miss something there? What is he trying to sign? Why are they with him? How did this all start? Because later on, Adam says to Zach, hey, just get him to sign it. He'll sign it after dinner. Get him to sign it. Any ideas?
I think that clearly they've been caught in some sort of a crime, and they have to they're informants. It's like a less serious version of The Wire, right? Like they're confidential informants.
Significantly
significantly less. There's no Omar in Go for sure. But you've got to they've got to do something, and then it's signed off, and that means they're not going to be convicted anymore. It's like they make it go away.
The movie's played it pretty straightforward, except for this part of the story. It's obvious that Sam and Zach, they're a couple, but I couldn't put a finger on Burke, what his deal was. Because in the beginning, he seems like he is an overzealous cop. Think Mark Furman for OJ, who was like acting as a professional police expert in the writing of some novel. he's prepping them for a role, or he's trying to get into Hollywood as some expert, some specialist who could come on. Then it shifts when he is sexualizing Zach. You know, do you work out? Ooh, you got a great body. He's touching him. Feel those abs. You could scrub your laundry on them. And when Burke's partner leaves from the stakeout, he gives a look like, I know what's going on here. I'm leaving. This is disgusting. I don't want to be part of this. I'm expecting another one of those parking lot turns where Zach is going to get sexually assaulted or blackmailed. I thought Burke was going to sleep with Zach and then the wife was going to sleep with Adam. Nobody could have predicted multi-marketing pitch was what was going to happen.
I'll admit that I was surprised by the multi-level marketing pitch, but this all seems consistent and can be explained with the fact that he's a cop. Because the last two interactions that I've had with cops in a professional setting, one, I had a car accident. And the cop told me about how he served in Afghanistan and wanted to relate that to the fact that I was Kurdish, and then talk about Middle Eastern people and how fascinating our culture was and how he found Persian women so attractive, which was an odd conversation. And the other one was when I had my truck stolen from my driveway and the cop asked why I didn't shoot the people who were stealing it, and then wanted to discuss my firearms with me and what my preference was between 9mm and 40s. And I didn't feel like either of those conversations was appropriate. And then if you want to take that even further back, like 2003, the King Bee and I went to a Comic-Con, and one of our friends, Cop Mark, was with us, and he was the weirdest dude sharing the hotel room. Cops are just like, the lines get very blurred for them about what's appropriate in conversation.
Did he stand naked in front of you and ask you to smell his CK1 knockoff?
I wasn't that fortunate.
That was, and you know, William Fichtner, great performance. He has a tie to another one of these films. He was in Crash. So he seems to love these intertwining narratives.
Also Heat, right?
He was also the bank manager in the in Batman Dark Knight.
With the shoddy. He done fucked up. Discussing their mutual infidelities, Adam and Zach realize they both cheated with the same person, Jimmy. They confront him at the rave, cutting a lock of his hair. Leaving the rave, they accidentally run over Rana and drive away when they see Todd with a gun. Adam realizes to his horror that he's still wearing his wire. So the two return to the scene to remove Rana's body, but discovered she is just unconscious. They prop her up on a car, setting off its alarm, and watch from a distance as other partygoers call an ambulance.
So here we get, total scene in the style of I Know What You Did Last Summer, where someone has to figure out what to do. There's an assumed dead body that they've hit, and they make literally the worst decision possible. I think that's required of scenes like this in movies. They evaluate all the logical explanations, and it's they're going to choose the one that's either going to get them killed by a guy with a fish hook or sent to jail. And I have to say, even knowing that, watching Adam and Zach try to figure out what to do with Rana's body is probably one of my favorite moments from this film. It was hilarious. And Jay Moore and Scott Wolf are so great in this scene. And I really like when idiots try to figure out what to do with a crime. And here we get some great ones, right? They debate killing her. He almost hits her and then he doesn't. They debate hiding the body. All of it is just so ridiculous. And of course, out of everything they evaluate, they end up putting her in a car with the car alarm going off as they stand there and they watch. And that one line of, hey, look, girl in a ditch, our problem. Girl out of a ditch, not our problem. Y'all, perfection.
So totally.
Big D, I think you and I discussed on a previous episode how hard it is to get rid of a body. And you felt that it was fairly simple. And I said that it would be next to impossible. I'd have no idea what to do with the body. Working at newspapers, I was shocked to discover just how often people leave others for dead. Whether it's an overdose, a vehicle accident, attempted suicide, a missing person. And you don't hear about it in the news that often because we have kind of a code as journalists. Unless it's in the public interest or a public figure, we don't publish those stories. But it would happen, I would say, at least once a month in a fairly small town. This was in Lima, Ohio, where you would have a person who was left for dead, found, taken to a hospital and ended up surviving, and you just didn't talk about it because it didn't really involve anybody. It was kind of a violation of their privacy.
But man, you figure you would want to encourage other people to, If you see something, say something. Check for a pulse, people. Don't leave. You wonder, maybe those people wanted them left for dead, and they were all part of what was happening. But this goofy hijinks in this scene, Ash, you are so right. It is so good. Adam is losing his shit, and Zach tries to talk him through it. He's like, hey, we're on a set, little buddy. Look, it's the lights. Ooh, there's the craft table. And there's those veggie burgers that you like right over there. Just get on your blocking. Get on your blocking. And he's like, I am not falling for this. It is funny. It is, again, such a tone shift. But those two, it's one of my favorite scenes of the movie.
Well, as morning breaks, Claire goes to a restaurant to meet up with Rana and Manny, but encounters Todd instead. While making out at Todd's apartment, they're confronted by the two Victors. Simon arrives and agrees to be shot in the arm by Victor Jr. as Claire leaves in disgust. Meanwhile, Rana wakes up in a hospital and realizes she left Manny at the rave. She and Claire find Manny pale and shaking in the alley. The three go to Rana's car, where Rana muses that she can now pay her rent, and Manny asks what their plans are for New Year's.
So I felt incredibly stupid. There are multiple characters and plot lines weaved through this movie, but it's not that many. This is not Magnolia. This is not Crash. I should be able to keep up with all of them. However, when they get to the final revelation where they scream Manny, I also screamed Manny. I had totally forgot he was in this film. I did not remember it at all. And it made me think of how horrible it is to be separated from your friends when you're on a bender. In 99, that would suck to get separated or lost. I had it once happen in Cancun at spring break. I got off on my own and was in this club, did not speak Spanish. It was amazing. I got home. It was terrifying. And in 99, Rona and Claire, it's smart that they have a location to meet up afterwards. Today, do people do that? I mean, because like your wedding, G, we lost Chad for a bit. I don't know. Do people today even go through this? Or do you just say, hey, find my iPhone, text me, whatever? Is this a lost problem?
Yeah, I don't think there's a meetup spot anymore. I think you just call each other. Back in the day in Arizona, it was Denny's. We had a Denny's that everybody would just show up to, and that's kind of where you ended up. And people would be there anywhere from like 2 a.m. to about 7 a.m. So you could just kind of meet up with your friends there and then find a ride home. But that was, I think early days of cell phones. Most of us just had pagers. And as for Chad, by the way, I was really more worried for Detroit than I was for Chad. That man is a walking weapon. He is a terror. When he gets wasted, it gets even scarier.
And in all the tone changes in this movie, we're getting to the end. And I guess you can't end on a dark note. It's got to be upbeat because you got to leave the theater being like, hey, that was a fun romp. So we see Rona, she's released from the hospital. Manny is safe under a pile of trash. And that left the only loose end was Simon, Todd, and the Vegas goons, the father and the dad, that plot line. And it goes to a wacky, fun area. And I just kind of started to think, in the description of the film, Gene, it says the drug deal gone wrong from separate perspectives. Much like we talked about in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, maybe we should take into account that these storylines are from the people's point of view, because the tone here is really weird. Simon's in there. He's caught. We got to get retribution. All of a sudden, the goons are forgiving. They're having a good time. Simon seems gleeful. Hey, it's okay. I'll be shot in the arm. It's okay. Claire's like, I'm a witness. I'm a witness. They let her walk out. They're sitting on the couch excited like they're watching TV. It felt very weird, but maybe it's from the perspective of Todd or Claire or something, but it was weird.
I mean, I feel with the multiple witnesses that this is like a pretty accurate account, but this film is a black comedy. So following along that heritage of Heathers and Very Bad Things, I took this as the Gimp scene from Pulp Fiction, or the dildo beating in Lock, Stock, or just anything that happened in American Psycho, right? It's meant to be a black comedy. It's meant to be a bit absurd. This is exactly what I want from a black comedy. What I was really worried about is where Simon drew that target on his arm, because that looked like it was right over bone, which is fucking idiotic. Like, that's going to cause some serious damage. Now it's time of the podcast where we give our Shat score for Go. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get out of your respective butts. 0 wipes is when you stole a car, shot a bouncer, and had sex with 2 women. 5 wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It is getting food poisoning on the first day of vacation from the $5 buffet shrimp. Ash, we'll start with you. What is your Shat score for Go?
I really liked this movie a lot. I thought it was paced really well. It's got a ton of people that I loved, and like a lot of them, like I forgot that I loved and then remember that I loved again. And I found it like comfortingly like nostalgic. I think that we're really getting into that time period that feels like right for me and like my age, but because of the fact that like mid 90s to early 2000s, like that's some of the movies I remember the most. And I thought overall, this was a really good one for teen films, movies with like young 20-somethings, whatever. This is much, much better than what we normally get. I think it's a little bit better than average. It's not some like piece of fantastic cinema, but like it's a perfect film to watch. Like, I understand why people watch it yearly. And here's the deal, randomly a new Christmas movie to watch because this thing's set at Christmas. So that's kind of fun. So for me, I'm giving it a pretty solid score. I'm going to go with a strong 2 wipes, a little bit better than average, but not, any higher than that. I think it's like perfect right there, that 2 wipe range.
So I'll be honest, I came into this worried because, Gene, you had mentioned that you thought I might dislike it because of the look how smart we are dialogue. And I was thinking, oh, if I get Clerks or something on that level, I'm going to hate it. But I didn't. And I think the best way I could describe this movie is it's if MTV had made Crash or any of those other intertwining films. It's a mosaic for a simpler, younger viewer's mind. The scope of the characters is smaller. There's limited, difficult moral decisions. There's no euthanasia or dying parents or any like really traumatic life decisions. You think about the end of Magnolia, that will devastate you for days. The characters really don't grow or change much. They're the same at the end. The soundtrack is memorable, but all the mashups, tons of songs, quick cuts. It felt like an MTV version of these films. And for that, I enjoyed it. It was simple and fun. And I feel kind of bad, but I think it's an average film, but it was much better than I expected. 2.5 wipes.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily feel bad because Mark clearly said that he thought it was 2.5 wipes, and all of us are coming in better than that or equal to. I agree with you, Big D. If Magnolia is the all roads converge movie that takes itself super seriously and concerns itself with the trials of the privileged, then Go is like its goofy little cousin that lightens up and focuses on the hip kids of the late 90s. And for that, I'm sorry, Ash, commissioner of Magnolia. I'd honestly say that I like this movie better than Magnolia, and I would give it 2.25 wipes.
No, Magnolia is great.
I will give you this, right? I will give you this. I think this movie is hella more enjoyable than Magnolia. Like, this is one I would like want to watch with you. Magnolia is one I want to watch alone and like ponder why like we all suck as a human race and how we're all just like despondent and like have absolutely no chance at happiness in life, right? Like, that one is a solo watch for sure. This one is a group watch. So I get it. This one is a lot more enjoyable than Magnolia. Better than Magnolia? No. But enjoyable, absolutely. I would watch this any day over Magnolia because it's fun.
Strong argument, Ash. With 2 wipes from you, 2.25 wipes from me, and 2.5 wipes from Big D, that gives us an average wipe score of 2.25 wipes for Go.
Again, and this just happens, this isn't intentional, where a movie discussed also comes up with the same score. So with a 2.25 wipe, that ties us in the 160 spot. With True Romance, Clerks, The Final Countdown, and Liar Liar.
That's so perfect. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, it's like it almost feels like a Clerks, True Romance sort of movie.
So, Ash, would we have liked this more if there was a sing-along at some point in the film?
If that is some low-key way to insult Grease 2.
Magnolia. Magnolia, where it goes character to character, where they're singing.
I think that's a bit of a stretch, sir, calling that a sing-along. Like, it's not like they were all together in like some karaoke experience. Like, I think that I'm not going to even respond to it. No, I think that Magnolia is fucking brilliant. I think that this movie is perfect.
I like Magnolia.
The way it is. It did not need a sing-along, a karaoke moment. It may have been too much.
Yeah, just frogs in a convertible Ferrari.
Yes, I gave it half a wipe, Ash. I love
know.
Magnolia.
Gene's the one that broke my heart on that one. It's fine. I agree with you 99% of the time. We're going to disagree at some point. So that's Magnolia.
Moving right along, Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, the holiday miracles continue. We just broke through the 2000 ceiling, and we're going to go right back. Buddy was accidentally transported to the North Pole as a toddler and raised to adulthood among Santa's elves. Unable to shake the feeling that he doesn't fit in, the adult Buddy travels to New York in full elf uniform in search of his real father. As it happens, this is Walter Hobbs, a cynical businessman. After a DNA test proves this, Walter reluctantly attempts to start a relationship with the childhood buddy with increasingly chaotic results. This came out in 2003. Jon Favreau, $225 million. This is a legendary Christmas classic that is about time. And a Christmas miracle. Not only Buddy the Elf, but we're getting Ashley the Elf will come back for this one as well. This is the Shat gift to the community.
Well, thank you to Mark for the month of Mark commissions. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. You should follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
New Line Cinema proudly presents a little holiday story. One Christmas Eve, Santa Claus got an unexpected gift of his own.
What in the name of Sam Hill?
30 years later.
Let's recite the code of the elves, shall we?
The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
Buddy's discovering who he really is.
You're not like the rest of us. I was sure when you cracked 6 feet that it would come up.
My bad.
You're not an elf.
Now, he's taking a journey to find the family he's never known in a place where he finally fits in. Boy. And nothing's going to stop him.
Sorry, your car's pretty.
Will Ferrell is Elf.
Hey, what's your name? Does someone need a hug? God! Nutcracker!
Catch the holiday spirit.
Just trying to hug you.
No, that's Cherry Pop.
It is not.
I don't think.
Zoot Suit Riot is Big Bad Voodoo Daddies.
No, it's Cherry Pop and Daddy.
Did you Google it?
I don't know.
I just did. But I mean, I knew. No, wait. I knew it, but then I Googled it to confirm it. If you're checking the trivia,
wait until this
here.
comes up in trivia night.
I am so pissed that I did not know. Wait, hold on. Oh my God.
Yeah. I saw them live at Boston's in like 95.
Oh, this is a Mandela effect or some shit. Because I have always thought.
No, Big Bad Voodoo Daddy is a band.
But I would have thought also they did Zoot Suit.
Well, see, this is the problem when all this shit sounds exactly the fucking same, like, right?
Yeah.
Like of this time period. You blew my mind just now. I had no idea. But the point is.
The point is what?
Oh,